Welcome, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Unmanned Uncovered. This is your host, Stephen Gloss, drone subject matter expert consultant, content creator, and podcast producer for Consortic, a company built to help you discover a better way to do things with drones. With me on today's show is Michael Bellomo. Michael is the owner and lead pilot for his own business, Aerial Inspection Team. He started AIT to help advance safety and profitability in industrial inspections and farming. Michael Bellomo, welcome to the show. It's great to have you. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, Stephen. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to finally have you on the show. For those that aren't aware, we've been I don't even know what you call this. It's not phone tag. I'll call it Zoom tagging each other.
That's true.
I'm happy to finally get our schedules aligned. So would you mind just starting us out by giving just a basic background summary of your career experience and how you made the transition into the unmanned aviation field?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different than most people, and I think that's why I've gotten more into the industrial side of things. But for the last 20 years, I was first an industrial mechanic and then electrician and then programmer. And I used thermal imaging and infrared a lot in my industry and did a lot of inspections and stuff like that. But I never really even considered drones until I bought a farm. And I actually, my first drone was actually a Phantom 2 that a young man had built. He had built it up with HD, 3D, Zenmuse, and he had put a GoPro on it and all that. And to be honest, I bought it for bow hunting.
Yeah.
I bought it because I wanted the GoPro off of it.
That's great.
And this is, 6 years ago or whatever, 7 years ago. And I bought it wanting that GoPro, and he just happened to be upgrading to the Phantom 3 and he didn't want any of it. So he said, here, just take it all. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do with this? So I went back to my farm and I flew it, and I can't explain how much I've always wanted to fly, as a private pilot.
Yeah.
Since I was a little kid, I've always dreamed of flying. So the first time I flew that FPV was like the biggest game changer in my whole life. It was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, to fly up and to have the control and to be feeling like you're right there. It was awesome. And almost immediately, as far as that aha moment, almost immediately, my mind started racking things I could do with it.
Oh, that's so cool.
Because I wasn't a photographer, that's usually where people come from. Almost everyone I meet came from photography. And that's where they started, and that's why they got a drone. Because I wasn't a photographer, my first instinct was to start figuring out ways to put sensors on it and do what I was already doing at work and on my farm, only from the air. And that first year, I was actually able to build through an accident where I was trying to get the GoPro off of the drone. I broke the gimbal, and because of it, I ended up looking into it. And because I'm an electrician, I started building stuff on my own. And within a month or two, I had my first FLIR thermal set up on a custom gimbal on that Phantom 2.
That's so cool. Still using the second. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and I still have that drone around for practice with my new pilots and stuff. But yeah, almost immediately I started doing the same inspections I would do in my normal job.
Yeah.
And I would inspect the roofs, and I would inspect power lines and power supplies. And then on my side job, I had started doing organic farming on our farm, which is not something I suggest anyone take as lightly as I did.
Yeah.
It was a more than full-time job, but I did find some interesting stuff and that's actually one area that hasn't taken off here, surprisingly, in Wisconsin, is after it rained, I could track the water under the ground for several days using thermal imaging. And by doing so, I could actually plan where I planted certain things and I didn't use nearly as much water. It was really cool. That's something I haven't really advertised as much and gotten into as much because the industrial side took over, because in farming, the money's not really there, unfortunately.
Right.
But yeah, the farm was actually where it started and where I built the equipment for. And like I say, the industrial side was just something I had so much experience with that right away I saw the uses for keeping technicians and contractors off of roofs and out of hazardous areas, and we could take that over so easily. So yeah, that would be definitely where everything started and how it's branched from there.
Yeah. So when did you take that leap of faith to start your own company with AIT?
I started the company probably almost 4 years ago now. I had already started the farm So I kind of knew how to get, start an LLC and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And go about insurance and everything like that. So I knew I had a pretty decent job, obviously full-time job. So my biggest fear was always leaving that and insurance and everything to chase something. So I kind of made set goals for myself. And I'd say about 2.5 years ago was when things really picked up. And I think it's because I started advertising more and started reaching out more, So yeah, 4 years ago I started the company, and 2.5 years ago it really picked up for us. So
awesome, man. Really happy for you. So you just maybe describe to our listeners, what services do you provide through your company AIT, and how have you been able to forge ahead and develop a team that has the skill sets needed to provide all of those offerings?
Like most people, I think I did the wrong thing first, which was to say, basically just look online, go on DJI's website or something, and they'll show you the million things you can offer,
Yeah, right.
The thing people don't understand is every single one of those things is a career. Photography alone is a career. It's something people go to college for. It's not something you pick up and go do today and do professionally and do well.
Hey, wait. So you're telling me I'm not a pro photographer with my iPhone?
Right. I mean, you can say you are. These days with the internet, you can say you're anything.
Right.
But if you try to provide clients a service with that background, you'll find really quickly that you're not providing them anything. So
yeah.
Right away I was like, well, we could just offer everything. I want to offer everything. I want to, and the only way I've been able to keep 3D mapping and modeling and photography and, alongside our thermal and infrared inspections. Obviously, the thermal and infrared inspections, industrial and farming, I was very comfortable with. All the other stuff, like I said, the 3D mapping and modeling, if you look at Pix4D's website, they make it sound like anybody can just pick up a drone and go do it.
Right.
The problem is people go to school for many, many years for mapping and modeling, and to learn how to set up ground control points and do things like that. And one, it's not that easy, but two, if you don't actually fully understand what you're doing, you really have no product to offer your clients. And you don't know that until somebody hires you. And then you go, oh crap, what am I doing? I'm not at all in the right, I don't have nearly the background I need to provide what they want. I was fortunate in that I saw some of those things coming, and I hired on other people to work with me, more so to train me than anything.
Yeah.
I hired an old retired surveyor, and he came on and taught me about, in a week, he probably taught me what I could have learned in 2 years of school, and that helped a lot. But I would probably, and this gets into some of other things we were going to talk about anyway, but I would probably always suggest to anyone, start with something you're already comfortable with,
Yeah.
We try to offer everything, but as we've gone on here, we've slowly gotten out of real estate photography. We still work with a few large commercial property companies, but general real estate is just, the money's not there in the competition. There's a million people who have a 12-year-old with a drone who are willing to take pictures for $37,
Yeah.
And that's what you're competing with.
Right.
It's not even the professionals that you're competing with.
That's a great point.
So it's a tough market. And the only way you can compete in things like that, if that's what you want to do. And like I said, that's kind of the obvious one that people jump into. The biggest suggestion with those is get a really strong background in it and be the best at it, Yeah.
Well, Mike, knowing how to fly drones and collecting the data, that's one thing, with training experience, you can do that. But when it comes to actually processing that data and actually developing a product, that takes an entirely different skill set. Do you have, or have you taken any specialized training on how to furnish those products? And do you expect your employees to do the same?
Yes. When it comes to training, so I've done a lot of work with Pix4D. That's been our chosen for mapping and modeling, even though I will say as of this past year, the prices have gone ridiculous for anyone looking to just jump into that. It's crazy. The cost just to upkeep the software. It's definitely not made for somebody starting out.
Yeah.
They used to have a lot of options, and I know they're all going that way, so I'm not dogging on Pix40. They have a great software, but yeah, it's not very conducive to starting out. But yeah, I took basically everything they would offer for online courses and so on, and I needed it.
Yeah.
Even having a background and being, more technologically inclined than a lot of people I know, I needed it for the mapping and modeling for sure to understand it. I mean, the baseline that goes into 3D mapping and modeling,
Yeah.
it's just amazing, the background data that's collected and how it's produced. And it's not just taking pictures and putting them in software. If that's all you understand of it, you won't get very far. So
Yeah.
yeah, I did that. And then through my previous work, I had always kept up with thermal imaging and predictive maintenance, and that's another field in itself, obviously. But again, getting out there and doing projects and practicing is the only way to learn, I think, in most of these fields. So again, I have a bunch of, month and 2 month courses that since I actually started the company that I do just to stay refreshed. But when it comes to my employees, we've actually got a training center here on site at my offices in downtown Janesville. And I've been pushing now. I've actually been trying to come up with some training to provide online for other pilots and other companies, but I've steadily been working to create custom training for my people. I always suggest they go on and do, the Pix40 classes and stuff like that. And they offer a lot of free stuff. Same with FLIR. They offer a lot of free stuff. And then like if you're going to do any thermal imaging, you want to get your thermography level 1 at least, just so you understand what thermography is,
Yeah, I agree. It's a great idea.
But as far as the work is concerned, you really need to have a focus on the projects that you're working on. I mean, if you don't understand construction or the way a roof is put together, you can't really inspect a roof,
Yeah.
You'll just be looking at colorful pictures. So much more of the training has been on the job and in-house now for us.
I like that.
Attention drone pilots. Are you ready to earn your CAA approved GVC or A2 CFC within the UK? From online exams to instructor led courses, obtain the certifications you need to get your drone safely and legally into the sky. Book your course today at consortic.com.
Well, Mike, what advancements are you most excited for when it comes to unmanned technology, and what are you looking forward to?
Things are changing so fast technology wise. It's amazing. And I think everybody's going to see some really big changes just due to companies like Amazon and Google and the delivery systems.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize how much the delivery systems are driving our industry right now, from FAA regulations to technology itself on the drones. When you look up any information on remote ID, and it's just, there's 1,000 companies coming out now with their own systems for remote ID. And whenever you see that, you know that there's a specific industry driving that.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's 90% of it is being driven by the delivery industry. And most of us have nothing to do with that, So it's interesting. I follow and get more excited about the thermal imaging and the mapping and stuff like that. I have seen a lot of new equipment coming out for that, but to be honest, like the Matrice 300 that came out, one of our pilots actually went out on his own and took out a huge loan and bought that drone. And he said, I bought the M300 and it's got the H20T and we've got thermal and zoom. And he said, I'm not even joking. He was actually just transferring in to be a pilot. He was doing some sales for us. And he says, can you come out to my farm and show me how to fly it?
Whew, yeah.
And I said, why would you ever buy equipment like that you have no experience with and no understanding how the sensors work and
Yeah.
So I did. I went out and I flew it. It was amazing. The sensor was amazing. It was really cool to fly. Right away, I could see that when we assist with search and rescue, which we try to make ourselves available for all the time, we've had problems with local sheriff's departments and stuff. They don't like letting in outside companies to help, but we have had numerous operations where we have been able to. And that right away, I saw a great use for that with the M300. But much like the M200 when it came out, there were a whole bunch of little pitfalls I saw that when it came to inspections and stuff like that, that we've actually not ended up using the M300 at all for our facility inspections. And a lot of it came down to that they locked it down to their remote. They went all in on their smart remotes. And a lot of our apps and a lot of our custom work we do on our iPads and our tablets,
Right.
you know, and they completely removed that from the equation. So we actually haven't been using that. There's not a lot of brand new equipment that I've been like, I have to have that, you know. My favorite, honestly, still to this day is my custom M100.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's got less regulation on it. It's, you know, I don't end up in geo zones all the time, and I don't, you know, I get geofenced out of areas, but I have the custom sensors on it and can read anything within 100 feet, you know, just like I can with the 200s we have. So I still prefer that over just about anything.
That's awesome. Oh, like, have there been like any really interesting or unique projects you've been able to work on? Maybe like, was it a search and rescue? And is that sort of like your ideal mission to be working on? Or like, what really, you know, gets your motors going when it comes to this industry?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the least of what we do,
Yeah.
thankfully. But if I could go help with search and rescue personally, if I could take my van that I built and go out and assist with stuff like that every single day, I would do that every day. I love seeing people's, even when they don't work out, seeing the hope on people's faces when you get there and you pull out the big TV screens and they can actually watch and be part of it and help.
Yeah.
You know, the same things happen when we do large inspection projects, but it's more like excitement because it's cool to watch, you know?
Yeah.
But
right.
But seeing families and seeing even police officers and stuff, you know, they all go, well, we bought a drone last year, so we don't need any help. And it's like, all right, it's just not the same thing, you know, and they don't understand it until they see it.
Yeah.
And they don't understand, a lot of people don't understand the difference between a drone crew that works and flies and practices thermal imaging every single day and one that just has those capabilities. So when we get on site, we actually have a full plan laid out because we practice for that every month. We actually do practice up on my farm for search and rescue, and we have people hide and we have people.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, that would be my favorite. If you ask anybody else what I should be doing, it's industrial stuff all the time, just because I've got more years of experience with thermal and infrared and industrial background. So all my employees and everybody else go, well, you're awesome at that. You should be doing that every day. And it's like, I will, you know.
Yeah, that's sort of what your company does. Yeah.
What I really end up doing, if you want to know the truth, is sales. And I never intended on doing sales at all, period. And I always hear that old quote that whatever you think you're doing, you're actually in sales.
Yep.
You know, when you start a business, whatever you think you're providing, you're actually in sales.
That's right.
That's the truth.
Yep. I love it. Well, Mike, I'm sure you've had to go, you and your whole team have probably had a lot of, you know, challenges and struggles, ups and downs through this 2020 COVID year and even still lingering a little bit here. But if there was somebody crazy enough to consider it, what would be your advice to anyone listening that's maybe interested in starting their own drone business right now?
Just on a whim the other day, I think it was last week, right as we were prepping to go do some inspections for a school district.
Yeah.
We were here, we were charging batteries, calibrating sensors and all that. And I had been asked that same question in Facebook groups and on LinkedIn and everything a bunch of times. So I sat down and I made a quick video just so I didn't have to type as much on my phone. And it basically lays out this way. If you want to get into drones, I will be the last I'm not one of those people that will ever turn somebody away from anything they want to do.
Yeah.
If you have the drive and determination to start anything, I say go for it. What I also tell everyone is don't buy equipment first. Pick one thing that you're either have a background in, a lot of experience with, or you have a very large amount of interest in, to the point where you're willing to go get training and go to school. Everybody thinks because there's a few YouTube videos about it that they'll be fine. But if you're not willing to actually put time and money into the training, what you're going to end up with is a bunch of equipment that's worth a ton of money and has no use. That's my first step to everybody, is make a list of the things that you're really interested in, and then a few things that you actually have a background in. And you'd be surprised. There's there's so many industries right now. There's so many uses for drones. I tell my clients that all the time, that, you know, if you think of something, tell me, because a lot of things haven't even been thought of yet.
That's right.
You know, it's changing every single day, and there's a million different things right now. One of the really cool projects we did, and it was free. We've actually been doing it for the city just to try to get them on board with us. But we had all their engineers get together and try to think of some things that we could provide them with our background in thermal imaging. And they wanted to know if we could check for gas leaks in their landfill system.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I think we could.
Yeah.
Let's try it, you know? And we spent a few weeks with them mapping, because then, of course, I'm trying to slip in some of our other stuff. I'm like, well, here, we could do your GIS stuff, and we could do, you know, we could take pictures of your projects, and we could do this and that. But it ended up working out really well. But had I just gone out and bought $25,000 worth of thermal equipment and a drone to fly it, and then tried to come up with something to do, I would have been one of the people that I buy equipment from, because that's how I get most of my equipment, is from people who bought it, went under, and end up selling it for half price.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, wait on buying equipment, buy a cheap drone to practice with, and work on your list of what you can actually provide people. What service can you actually provide someone?
Yeah, I like that. Well, Mike, it's been a blast having you on the show today. I'm really excited about all the work that you and your team are doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really optimistic that you guys are going places, and I appreciate just all the insights and the good wisdom you brought to today's episode. So with that, do you have any closing comments before I close this out?
No, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm glad we finally got around to making it work. If you ever have a need again, I'll be here for you. And if anybody wants to check us out, it's AITdrone.com. And we're working on our training and some project videos. Most of our content on YouTube is mostly based around people who have an interest in drones and services. We don't have a lot of super awesome FPV flights and stuff like that, but we try to do some thermal training and stuff like that. So Aerial Inspection Team on YouTube, you can check that out too.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you to all those listening to another episode of Unmanned Uncovered. This episode was brought to you by Consortic. Consortic specializes in drone services, remote pilot training, and UAS consultancy designed to provide you with safer, more efficient surveys and inspections. Go to consortic.com right now. That's CONSORTIQ.com right now and find a better way with drones. And if you got the chance, give us a good review. 5 stars makes a big difference in helping me uncover all there is to know about unmanned systems. That's all for this week. Stay tuned for next week's edition. And until next time, safe flying, everyone.